Hello, so I want to talk about record sources here, okay? So here I have a rubric database and I have a form up here, and over here is a record source, the record source property for this form, and remember to get there. So that you can see the form properties. You can click here, or you can come here and pick form in the list. Here is record source. Oh, the other thing is that I wanted to say is that you need to click on all, or you can click on data, either way. Anyway, so here's a record source. Now, in this particular example, there's already a select statement in here, but with record sources you could have either no record source, which would mean that all these fields in here would not be mapped to anything in a table, or and I don't recommend that under normal circumstances. Sometimes forms such as a main menu or a navigation form would not need to have a record source necessarily, but in this case, when you're pulling data into a form or a report, you do need to have some sort of record source. Now, you can have a table here, or you can have the name of a query that you've already created and shows up in the navigation pane, such as one of these select queries, and a pen query or make table query or something like that wouldn't work. It needs to be a select query. Anyway, so you could have a name of a query that's listed over here, and you could just put that name here, or you could have a select a select statement, and that would be an SQL select statement, and that's what this is right here. Okay, so to see this SQL statement, you can click here. Also, if you're building a SQL statement, you can click on this build button. So in other words, there's nothing in the record source yet, but you can just click on this build button, and then you can create a query like you're used to. Okay, and so this is a graphical perspective of a query. Now, if you wanted to see the SQL view of that query, you can come here and click on SQL, and you will see this SQL statement that will be inserted and that you will see as the property for the record source. But we'll go back here and we'll switch back to design view like most people are used to seeing. This is the graphical version of the query that will be the record source for the form. Okay, and so then from here I can click on close. Either you can make changes, or you can just look at it, or you can build a query. In either case, after you've finished doing what you want to do here, you can click on close and then say, do you want to save the changes made to the SQL statement and update the property? And you can just say yes, and then you will see that here there's a record source and there is a select statement, which is an SQL statement. Okay, now there are lots of different SQL statements, but for a record source it will be a select statement. Okay. Anyway, hopefully that explains about how to build a record source for a form. Okay. So let me see. How about if I just really quickly, I'll show you about building a form. And, well, let's see. We'll build a blank form, okay? And then perhaps I want to put data on this form that comes from the rubric points table, okay? So I'm going to click on design and I'm going to click on property sheet so I can see the properties for this form. And remember, the form is selected. If it's not selected, you would need to adjust that by clicking down here. Now there's not much here for now, but that's because there's not anything in the form. But anyway, so here's a record source. Once again, I can click here. I can click on rubric points. I can click on close. I can bring down all of the fields from this table just by bringing down the star. And then I can say, and I could actually, if I wanted to, sort it by something, like maybe when it's due. So then I can say ascending, okay? And then I can say save, and I can say close. And so now when I saved and closed, I come back and I can see the record source, and here is an SQL statement. And if I come over here to design and I look at add fields, now I have a list of all my fields that I can put on here. Okay, so that's how you do a new form. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to show you in a report that it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say design view on this report here. And I'm going to come here and click on design, and I'm going to make the property sheet show. Okay. And here, record source, you can see there's a record source here. Okay. And I can go and see that record source by hitting the build button, and you can see what the record source is here. Okay. And you can see that it's ordered by the rubric category number and then when it's due. Okay, so and even though it's not showing, but anyway, so the whole point is that this is what is being shown and available to the report. Okay, and it will insert an SQL statement here. Okay, and so if I wanted to just quickly, I'll just show you quickly about creating a blank report, and then I can go and I can click on design and I can say property sheet, and I can build a record source for that report. I can click on the build button, and maybe I'll put in rubric points. I'll say close. I can bring them all down. Maybe I'll sort it by when due. Okay. And then I'll click on save, and I'll click on close, and then I can come over here to design and I can say add existing fields, and then I can start to build my report just like I did when I started to build my form. Same idea. Okay, so hopefully that explains record sources for you. Thanks.